Welcome to the Lounge of Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and also what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. And I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guest today is Ralph Iantosca, who's a luxury travel entrepreneur. And welcome to the Lounge, Ralph. We're so excited to have you today.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good one. I mean, okay, first of all, fees. It's always like the hottest topic on the block. But what you're doing is revolutionary and it's very exciting. And I'm excited for you to share everything with us today. But before we start talking about everything, can you first just tell us, how did you get in the travel industry?
Okay, so I have been doing this since 1990, and it's all I've ever loved, right? So I was at 32 years now. Oh God, that was awful to say. But yeah, 1990. And so I went to travel school. I knew this is what I always wanted to do, was have a career in the travel business. And so over my 32 years, I've worked for all kinds of different clients in the business. I've worn all kinds of hats. So after travel school, I worked for a little airline, a regional airline, Horizon, out of Seattle, which is now a big regional airline. I then went to a travel agency, a big mass market travel agency. A lot of people have heard of AAA, the Auto Club. And I worked there in AAA, Montana, where I'm from. And I worked my way up. And then I opened an office for AAA in northwestern Montana, and ran that and trained and taught travel agents to come and work with me when I was in my young 20s. I loved the business. And then I came to Dallas in 1997 and took a leadership role with AAA. And I had a team working underneath me. And then I left AAA Travel and went to American Express in an affluent neighborhood in Dallas, working with all kinds of Platinum Card members. And it was an office where you could come in and get traveler's checks, pay your American Express bill, and book travel. And so I worked for all kinds of more affluent clients doing higher end transactions. And then I went independent off of a base salary with benefits to a commission model. As an independent consultant, where I had to turn in all the clients I worked for and go get my own. I wasn't allowed to develop a clientele and then go independent and make straight commission. During that time, though, before I went independent, American Express had some really fun little top producer clubs. There was like Trendsetter and Pacesetter, which was the top 10%, top 5%, and I made it into that club. Like my first day on the job, American Express, my bosses came up to me and said, well, we're glad you're with us. We just wanted to tell you that your revenue goal and sales goal for the year is 1 million in sales. And I was like 26 years old, 25 years old. $1 million. Like I have to sell $1 million. Oh my God, how am I going to do that? Like that just stressed me out and made me really, upset. I mean, here I'm working at AAA Travel and our average trip was $3,000 or something. I mean, it was just, oh my gosh. So I worked very hard at American Express, and then I made it into those top producing clubs. And then I realized that I wanted to be independent. So I started all over again from the bottom up. Right during 9/11, I went independent. What a perfect time. I mean, at first it was really intimidating with not an airplane in the sky, but now I'm like, wow, I get to do it my way, whatever I want to do. So that was exciting to get to build my clientele base. And then my entrepreneurial hat kicked off and I realized I should be in a niche market. So I decided to leave American Express and join a group which would let me be an independent consultant. And this group was quite controversial. They had a 100% pay model where I could keep 100% commission and pay a monthly fee and use their platform. And so no longer was I splitting commissions with American Express. Instead, I was keeping everything. And so that was much more lucrative for me. And I thought that was very interesting. And then from there, I decided that I wanted a different brand in the niche market. So I opened Go Girl Travel. I hired many advisors over the years. I kind of thought it was a training school for people to get into the business because I didn't know the very first couple of years how to keep people to stay with me when I had a model that competed with me for 100% commission. So, I mean, I would train them and then they would leave me and go on their own and keep 100%. But you learn, right? Like you're young, you're in your young 20s, 30s, right? You learn. And then on and on. And then Virtuoso called and asked me to join as a member, and I was flattered, and I thought that was a big honor. So I joined Virtuoso with Go Girl Travel and was with Virtuoso for many, many years. And through that process, I traveled the globe, escorted a lot of trips. I also was traveling quite heavily before I joined Virtuoso, going on many different programs and putting groups together and hosting group trips and going all over the world just so I could get the experience. And in Virtuoso, I was blessed enough to have some opportunities to be like on some different advisory boards and committees, like a hotel preview committee, opening up the new Park Hyatt in New York, from the ground up of the hard hat tour and blueprints of the Bulgari in London, to see it all the way open and take groups there. Lots of things. And so then in 2017, I had just worked myself really to the end of the point where I was about to crack and realized that I don't want everybody working for me anymore. I want to just work for myself, and I just wanted to turn over the reins to someone else. So I closed the agency and joined a Virtuoso host agency that has the same 100% pay plan with a monthly fee, where I can have all the perks and benefits of the Virtuoso platform and top producing circles in addition. So like Four Seasons Preferred, the Rosewood, program, Belmont, on and on and on, without me having to keep up the volume by myself. So it's a collaboration of many agents selling under one IATA number. So I have the buying power now of a huge agency. I have my own name. I can take advantage of all the perks and amenities and do what I want, which is really important to me. And so then we get into the pandemic, and we didn't know what was happening, and we got slapped really hard. So all the work I had done all these years had become undone. And I was really angry and bitter, really mad. I've never been that mad in my life. And I didn't know I was so emotional and just so unhappy, because here you've worked and worked and worked, and you've charged some fees and some clients, but you were expecting a payout. And I had like over 2 years of work on the books with commissions that were supposed to be paid that didn't come, like everybody else. And then we had 2 years with nothing, right? I chose during the pandemic not to sell. I didn't want to try and sell during the pandemic. It was too much of a hassle to say, and there was too much controversy. I live in Texas, and it's a different environment down here than it is in other parts of the country. And, there seems to be a mindset of, well, how can I get this to work? What do I have to pay to get this to work? And with the high-end clients I serve. And that just kind of didn't work well with me. I didn't want to get into that. So I did some traveling as well, but not like to the extent. And so during that time, the second month in, when I was really mad, I had a client who I'd worked for 7 years, turn around and want their refund. And I had a really nice Japanese trip to see the cherry blossoms. And the supplier I had worked with gave them a future credit, because none of us knew what was going to happen. And this was over $80,000 of a future travel credit. And he is an attorney and said to me, I think they're just hanging on to my money and they're going broke. And I think I might take legal action against them and you, because I think you have something to do with this. And it was just a typical lawyer. So I was like, this doesn't feel right. I want you out of my life forever. I mean, what a sicko, right? Like, we've all worked for him. So here it is, like all these years later, and we still have these kind of clients that are who they are, right? And I was really upset. So here we are. I'm working for a client that's one of the bad ones that I thought, was a good one. And here we are again in that same position. The good thing is I had a great attorney who helped me with all my legals, protect me. So as an independent, I have all that in order. And at the very beginning of our process, my process is disclosing everything up front. And it's not popular and it's very hard. So for example, if you're on a website and you go to buy the trip, at the very last stage when you're entering your credit card, it says, click here to enter terms and conditions. And that's where you'll find the cancellation policies and so forth, 38 pages of waivers that no one reads, right? And for me, I do everything up front. Before I engage with you, here's my terms and conditions, here's my cancel fee. And I actually keep my commission. I charge my commission, right? And so, but during the pandemic, I had to be flexible with that because it wasn't their fault, right? But if I wanted to flex my muscles, I could keep the commission and say, you signed this, and it says, regardless of the reason, right? I'm charging you my commission for canceling the trip. And so I didn't know what to do, and I decided to charge him a cancellation fee, and the supplier gave him a full refund minus $250 of service fees, which I thought was very generous. And then he got his money back, and a month later he called me and said he didn't get his money back. He didn't even look at his credit card statement, and I got even more fueled, and it lit the fire underneath me to go full blast on my subscription model. So over the last couple of years, I have been working through Virtuoso with Wanderlist, managing my clients' bucket list, putting it in order, executing it, managing it. Well, of course, during the pandemic, we couldn't do any of that. But what we could do was figure out when this ends what we want to do. And so it led me down this road to go to my attorney and say, I'm going to move to an all subscription model. And I am done with these big powerhouses that think they can just boss me around. And every travel agent, regardless of who they are, has had ugly clients, mean clients, bossy clients, and you name it, we've had it all of us. Doesn't matter if you're selling a trip to Las Vegas or if you're selling a trip around the world on a private jet. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. So I put this together, and then I thought, well, I got scared. And how we all make this big change, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, should I have done this? So I decided to pick up the phone and call everybody in my portfolio. And I said, I've had some time to think now that we're not working, and I'm going to change my business, and I'm going to go to an annual subscription that's limited to a certain number of clients. And I want to know if you will stay with me. It's going to cost you $5,000. That's going to include 20 hours of time to be used in one calendar year, excluding what the trip is going to cost. And I'm going to set some parameters around what the trip is going to include. A minimum of 3 weeks a year traveling. So I'm not going to do the Bahama Rama 3-nighters. No, thank you. I'm going to do these nice 2-week and 3-week long extended custom tailored trips to Patagonia and Africa and Europe and, and so forth, Vietnam. And I'm not going to be doing any more work with airline mileage tickets and upgrades and points and anything that you asked me to help you for. I'm not going to do it anymore. That can be done by the people who produce those programs. And so this is what it's going to cost to keep the relationship. Would you stay with me if I launch this plan? And I got so many no's. No, 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 no. Why are you doing this? No. And then I got a yes. And the client that I called that gave me a yes was who I didn't expect. And he said, I love that. I'm finally not going to have to wait for you to get back to me. I love that. Yeah, listen, we are going to sell our business and we want to start traveling and we want to do at least 4 or 5 months out of the year. And we met with our financial guy and we put together a $300,000 to $400,000 budget. And we want to know if we would be able to work with you on something like that. Is that going to be enough? And yes. And I said, great. I'm going to just keep you on my list and I'm going to call you back. And I just kept going down my list. No, 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 another yes. And the next yes was from someone who I didn't expect to say yes at all. And, there they were. That sounds great, Ralph. We have a concierge doctor. We pay our doctor $5,000. I'm like, wow, okay, great. And the light bulb went off. Okay, so concierge doctor, wow, that's right, right? And on and on and on. And so then I started to put the plan together, right? So I made the phone calls, I worked with my attorney, and I got my plan, and I decided that I needed to really figure this out. So I determined how much time I was going to allocate to this per year. So I was like, wow, okay, so if I work an average of, say, 30 hours a week for 10 months, how much time is that? Because I want to travel for 2 months myself. And that's Monday through Friday with, a certain number of hours. And then I took my hourly rate and I multiplied it by the number of hours that I had available. And I could figure out how many clients I could actually accommodate under this model. And so that was very interesting. And when I saw the figures of what I wanted to charge per hour, and I started messing with the different model number of hours, it shocked me that I could make a full-time living without a commission. and do all of this work without getting paid from any supplier, I'd be completely thrilled and make just as much as I used to make after all my employees in my office and fees and virtuoso fees. Like, wow, like this is fantastic. I love this. So I started to get a few more yeses, and I had a few more no's. And the no's just made me furious, right? Like, why don't you want me, right? That rejection was really painful. And I was already mad about the rejection of where's my money, right? I mean, it was just already frustrating, but it was also at the same time very healing, because I realized, like, this is your chance to work for only people who will value you. So you can either take what you've got with the people that said yes and start there, start all over again, because how many times have we started over? I've started over, from going from AAA. I've started over going to American Express. I started over at American Express to become an independent. I started all over again to start Go Girl Travel. I left all that to just work on what I wanted to work on. So, I mean, it's not that I left the clients behind. I realized what I had done was trade up. So I wasn't dumping clients. I was just trading my clients up.
Ooh, I
And
like
that's
that.
what we do. Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
do. And it was really, when I saw that I had worked that hard over the years, reinvesting, and trading up, I then got over my anger. And I was really proud of the fact that I kept working on my business. So a lot of travel agents don't work on their business. They work in their business. They're tied up in the transaction. That's all they think about. The Smiths are going on the Regent, and the Joneses are going on the Seabourn, and so-and-sos are going with their group to Cabo, and blah, 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 blah. And they don't ever stop and work on their business, right? They will go to school, and we will learn everything about everybody's supplier and how we're their biggest advocate, and we can sell, Montage, and we can sell Four Seasons, and we can sell Hyatt, and we can sell on and on and on. But yet, why can't we do that for us, right? So I started to go down that road during the pandemic, and I came up with a solid plan, and I came up with a model, and then I tested the model, and then I made a lot of mistakes with the model, right? So the first part of it was, one size fits all, which didn't work out. And then I decided to regroup and say one size fits one. If you're going to truly do this and do a custom tailored itinerary for somebody, one size has to fit one, right? You can't just take something off the shelf and make it custom. So if you're going to do a custom plan, then do a custom plan. So I went back to my Wanderlist training, which was managing my client's bucket list and figuring out what they wanted to do and get those ideas on the table. And I actually sat down with each one of my clients, because I was being paid to do it per hour, and I tailored a plan just for them. So now I'm being paid to design their future of what they want to see and do. I'm being paid to execute and manage those things. How nice is that? And so that's what I do today. And so I also love the fact that I had to have assistants over the years help me when I grew my business over a few $1 million in volume. And I hired all these people, and here I am paying them with the commissions that are coming in. And I was charging fees, but I wasn't charging enough, right? So you charge 500 planning fee, 250 planning fee, this planning fee, that planning fee, but it wasn't ever enough. And now I have an hourly rate. And in my hourly rate, it's high enough for me to afford 2 assistants with every hour I charge. So I charge enough. After 32 years, I started to look at, like, how much should you charge? You've got Condé Nast Travel accolades for the last 3 years. You've won Travel and Leisure in the early 2000s. You've served as the president for APTA, Association of Promotion of Tourism to Africa, for the Dallas chapter. You've, joined Virtuoso and been on all these different innovation teams with white papers like the $1 Million Advisor and on and on. You should be charging a considerable amount that's fair. And then, I didn't do a flat fee anymore. I just always kept it hourly, because some of these things are credits, right? So we're in the middle of the pandemic and a trip cancels, and I have to cancel and rebook and cancel and rebook. I had Botswana, a party of 6. I rebooked 3 times, and then another family I rebooked twice. Like, if this keeps happening and we're, getting shut down, I need to make sure that I'm paid no matter what. And so that's what I have today. So that's kind of how I got to the point where I am today. And I feel like the model has proven to be successful for me, but I had to learn a lot by actually doing it. And it wasn't just in theory. I had to put the pen to paper, then go on and act and do it out. So now we're almost 3 years, 2.5 years, 3 years into it. And it's all I have, and I love it.
That's so incredible. Like, and just the timeline getting there. But random question, do any of your clients who originally said no, have they came back to you, or have
Yes,
they?
they have.
Yeah. So like, how does that work? Do you just have to have that conversation again?
We do have that conversation. And I said, I'm really glad to hear from you. I miss you. It's really nice to hear your voice. Let me tell you what's different in how I work today and see if this still works for you.
Perfect. That's awesome. And I know this is going to be like the $1 million question right now for listeners is if you're a new agent or still a little newer, without as much experience, especially like the travel experience that you have. I mean, you really can tell them like, I mean, I've been all over, so I can help you craft this bucket list and all this. So for newer agents, do you think this is something that they should offer, or is there like
Yes.
a happy balance? What are you thinking?
I wish that over 20 some years ago, I would have learned how to do this, because I wish I could have just developed a small clientele and just worked for them, and that's it, and grow with them over the years doing all these fun things, right? So I think the benefit is long-term, right? So this is a very deep relationship, and it gets deeper every year, and you become very close. Travel's so personal anyways. You become really close to them. You get great friendships, and you get to learn their kids, and their kids graduate and they have kids, and you grow with these families, and it's really lovely. And so that's the personal side of it. The business side of it is stop and think about what you do. Even if you're new, we all do the same things in the transaction part of the process. We're making the recommendations, we're doing the research, we're investing the time, we're being accountable. You're being accountable to the client. You're the one taking the money. You're the one taking the liability. They have the right to sue you, right? This is their time they're trusting you with, and they're coming to you. But that means that you are now being accountable, and you are now holding liability. And if you're holding liability for the booking, what is that worth? Right? So you have to make sure everyone gets paid. You have to make sure that they get there. You have to make sure that while they're there, they do all these different things, whether it's dining, excursions, and whether you know it or you don't, you're still going to do the research, and it's still your time. So be paid for your time. That's it. Right? And eventually you'll learn it. But if you can learn to charge a fee, like a professional fee that's respectable, not a small little $35 an hour, little nothing fee, but like a nice respectable fee, that will put you in a position as a professional. I would say a minimum of $100 an hour, minimum, unless you're like in the Midwest or some small market. And that's the other thing too. Like, Stephanie, I have heard so much from my colleagues. For example, I was at a party, and a travel professional was there and said, I read about you in the trades. We would never do what you're doing. If I did that, I wouldn't have a business. We all talked about it, and we thought, how nice would that be? But we wouldn't have a business. And I just looked at him like, are you serious? Oh God, you've missed out. You're just afraid. You don't have the skills. I bet if you were to stop and work at it, you could probably do it too. And it doesn't happen. This is a long process. You just don't go do this. You have to learn how. But young people getting into the business today, if they could calculate for their time, and they could make a business plan with 12 or 15 clients at a certain dollar amount, they'd at least generate an income over fees that need to be used in a year. Use it or lose it. And when you join the gym, if you don't go to the gym, do you get that money back? No. When you buy a subscription, whether it's a Netflix or all those things, if you don't use it, you don't get it back. So it's not anything different, right? And one of my clients asked me, he goes, well, why don't you just call it a concierge fee? And I had another client that said, you worked at American Express for a long time. We've been friends a long time. And this was, of course, during the process when I was asking them if they would stay with me, because they eventually all come back to you. And I said, I was a member of the Four Seasons Club here in Dallas, and I feel like when you have a membership, you have to have boards and meetings and a lot of people involved. I don't want that. And if you have a concierge fee, it just doesn't fit my personality, because I'm very welcoming and loving, and I love everybody, and I don't want to exclude anyone for the sake of being a snob, even though I am in a very wealthy state with a very wealthy clientele. Subscription sounded best to me because it means choose. So I'm going to present to you my way. Here's my way. Here's my rules. Here's my fee structure. Here's what I'm charging you. Here's what I do for that money. And if you cancel, here's what I keep. And then you choose, right? So now, if they said, well, that works for me, that's fine. Then, well, number one, I'm valued. Number two, I got paid. And number three, I'm working for someone who values me and I'm doing it my way. And things don't go well, I still get paid. They cancel, I charge, everything's fine. They said yes. It wasn't at the end, click here to book. It was at the very beginning, all up front, cards on the table, nothing to hide. There's no drama, there's no fights, there's no backlash, there's no I thought you said. It's all right here. I love it.
That
Life is
is,
good.
yeah, life is good. Yes. No, it's so good. And how do you track though your time and bill customers? Like how do you keep
I
up
have
with
some
the billing?
apps. There's some really nice apps that are out there. And in fact, I met an attorney from Florida through my friend Grace in West Palm. She's so fun. And she gave me her attorney who created a very high-tech time tracking that broke down an hour into 1/6 of time, because some attorneys will bill for 10 minutes, like for sending a fax, even though we don't even know what that means anymore.
Right.
But yeah, but like there's, emails, like if you're checking your emails, how do you bill, right? So there's different ways to bill and different ways to track. And so I use an app that is very affordable. I downloaded it on my phone. I also have it on my laptop. It's in my Outlook and my assistant has it. And we just have to get into the habit of writing down when you started, when you finished, and you're going to be surprised how much time you put into things. It's unbelievable. And what I like about it is I get a report. I can print it and email it to my client and show them, here's where we spent our time for you. And there's no questions asked, because any attorney will do that too, right? So, and I do it in 30-minute increments now. Most of the time we'll round up or down. And I'm very fair, very fair.
Yeah. What do you do for agents, like especially if you're getting, towards the end of their 12-month or whenever the end of the
The
year, maybe, or
renewal.
yeah. What if they haven't done anything with you? Do you have ways that you make sure you're engaging with them and that they're
I
using that
do.
time?
I do. I have a client who just pays me to stay with me. And I said, I think I might waive this for you. You haven't booked. He goes, no, I'll send you a check. It's fine. I know what I signed up for. Okay, that's fine.
Cool.
But then on the other hand, I had some clients that had some time left over. They had like 3 or 4 hours. And I said, so why don't I roll this into next year for you? Right. And then I had some other clients that had a lot of unused hours. They used like, I charged them for 20 and they used like 7. And I said, what are your plans for next year? And they said, we don't know. And I kept chasing them. Like, what do you want to do? When do you want to get together? What's your year look like? What's the kids' schedules look like for school? What are we good? They're like, we don't know. And then I followed back with them and, I was like, well, listen, so what do you feel like doing? They're like, well, we bought a house in Aspen, so we're not going to travel next year. We're going to just get settled up there. And I said, okay, thank you. And when you come back to travel, we'll have to renew this. And they said that we're good with that. So, I think it's case by case, one size fits one,
Yeah. No, it's really cool. And what about, so another question here for you is, if you're a seasoned agent listening and you don't think that maybe you have the right clients for this model, and you're interested in learning how to find these clients, what advice would you give to them of finding those clients?
I have to tell you, Stephanie, during this whole process, I documented everything and I wrote a curriculum. And I'm about to publish it after the first of the year. And I'm in the process of using a new platform. And I've recorded an entire training program for all of us to learn how to do this. And so for those that are interested, I would like for them to go to travel-strategy.com. And they can send me an email and they can get on my list. And when I launch this new training platform, they can have a look and see what works for them. And I want everyone to hear me very loud and very clear. I have worked on all types of clients over these 32 years, from being a very new agent and not having a clue and doing a trip to Reno. I mean, honestly, I used to do everything for everyone before we even had the internet, right? I mean, I sent faxes laughing at that, but Honestly, I've worked for every kind of client you can work for. I've worked in a big AAA. I've worked in a big American Express. I've worked in those, environments. I've worked as an independent. I've had all different kinds of clients. I've done groups. So I understand every market. And I am from Montana. I'm not from Texas. And so in the Midwest, it wasn't then Montana today is, we don't call it Bozeman, we call it Bos Angeles. But then it was not a good thing to rave about what you spent, right? So I had a client, and her and her husband would call me and come in and see me, and she liked to sail and cruise the QE2, and she had all these wonderful trips she liked to do, but she didn't want anyone to know. So of course, being confidential, we wouldn't talk anyways. But outside of work, it's a small town in Montana. Everybody said, "Where are you going? You're taking your trip. What are you doing?" Right? And when she passed away and the kids cleaned out the house, the kids didn't even know this. She had a closet full of ball gowns, his tuxedos, all their cocktail attire, because in Montana, cocktail attire is just a different pair of cowboy boots, right? I mean, and, so it was interesting. And then like, you didn't talk about what you did because you didn't want others to know you had anything, you had money. And they didn't want to be showy or brag like everyone would down here in Texas. I joke, but kind of. But like they don't do that up there. It was a very conservative thing. So I've worked for all kinds, right? So you name it, I worked for them. And regardless of where you are, like if you're in the Midwest or you're in a market and you don't think you can charge because others don't charge, like my friends up in Mequon, in Milwaukee. Ralph, we can't charge. We'd lose all of our business. People down the street, they'll just go to the other agency who's the people who aren't charging, and we're going to lose all of our business. And I just look at them and roll my eyes. I almost have a seizure. They go far back in my head. Like, oh my God, are you serious? I get so frustrated to hear that. So I decided like, there really is a need for this. And I don't care what consortium you belong to or what travel agency you're with. I don't care what you're selling. I want to just make people know that these classes and curriculums I've written with the formulas that I've proven will work in every single market. And I will show you how to show your value and how to share with the client with confidence how to charge. And I will show in this training program how to develop the clientele, how to find the clientele, how to trade up, and so forth. So for example, today, I'm very proud of this, and this doesn't mean to sound like I'm bragging, but I have a wealth manager who has 28 families in his portfolio. And this wealth manager doesn't have a client under 500 million net worth, right? And I work for all 28 families. And I love these people very much. And so they do really great trips. But they still have relatives and families that they don't want. I mean, they want to be discreet about too. So one of them that I'm working for, who is from East Texas and has family in Louisiana, just booked a group out in the allure of the seas from Galveston. And I booked, close to 24 of them. 24 passengers they're going to drive to Galveston and go. And she wants to go with her family. And her family doesn't even know that she's part of that. Her and her husband have that group. So it doesn't matter. Like the work is the work, right? We're still doing our transactions. We're still doing our work. You need to be paid for your time, bottom line. All travel agents matter. And I am an advocate for everybody in my industry. I have lost a lot of respect for those that have to rebate, though, because they can only compete on price. And it breaks my heart that they don't have the confidence. But there's always going to be those people that do that. If they're listening to this and they are afraid and they feel like, oh, that's crazy, why would you charge a fee? I, get plenty of money. And there's a travel agent I know. She is the most unethical person on earth. I don't know how she stays in business. She's not part of the Virtuoso Network or Signature Network or any of those. I forget what group she's with. But she just sold a huge Regent cruise to these clients, and she kept $1,000 and gave them the difference back. And like $4,000 or $5,000 of commission she handed back off this Regent cruise, and she only kept $1,000. And I wanted to just smack her. I was so frustrated to learn this. It just broke my heart so much because, number one, the integrity of, what the cruise lines built to charge those fees and so forth. And, they don't allow it. There's a percentage, but it still happens. but she was happy just keeping that little bit of money because that's her play money and she can go on the cruise with them. And, it's just that kind of thing. But what about all the people that don't rebate, that work hard, that charge fees? What an insult to all of us in our industry. So I just feel like I'm the advocate today. I'm everyone's advocate. I'm everyone's cheerleader. I want everyone to make more money. We just came through one of the hardest times of our lives, and we're here and we're working. And if we're here and we're working, you need to be paid what you're worth. And I didn't even bring up all there was to do with checking COVID requirements. Are you vaccinated? All the BS that we have to deal with that came with that, right? I didn't even talk about that. Just the work alone. And so I will, again, repeat the website. If you're interested in this curriculum, I'm going to be launching it after the first of the year, so get on the list. So visit www.travel-strategy.com and get on my list. And when I launch this after the first of the year, I will send you a notice of what the curriculum is going to be. And it's going to be great. I'm really excited about the platform that I'm using. There's going to be tests and quizzes, and make sure that you really get it and that you can learn it at your own pace. It's not going to be, only at a certain time and so forth. It's going to be self-study. So if you want to take 15 minutes every day on your lunch, if you're taking a lunch, and just kind of go over these little lessons, you'll get a lot out of it. It won't take very long to get it done either. So I put together a nice series. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's so cool. And I'll make sure to put that website in our show notes as well. But what about for those agents who they're still not sure if this is the right model for them? Should they still go sign up? And then will they have the period, will they get to see some of the information before, or how should someone who's a little unsure deal with that?
Well, so what I started to do immediately after I started this program was I got a few referrals, right? And so I got really nervous. And this was one of my learning curves that I think is interesting. And I'm always one that will share a failure with everyone, right? Because it's an opportunity to learn from it. And I'm not afraid to share how I screwed something up ever. So I decided that we would have an initial conversation, get to know each other. I created a interview form that they fill out before I meet with them. And then we discuss it to see if my portfolio is a fit of the services that I offer and how I charge and so forth. And I charge them a planning fee up front. And if we work well together throughout that experience, then I offer an invitation to join my subscription. So it's not immediate. And so what's nice is it gives the opportunity of the agent to work with the client to see if they like them first instead of making a huge commitment. So let's go on a date before we get married, right? And so we work together. If we're a fit, we learn about each other, what we like, what we don't like, what they're going to be good at, what they're not good at, how they like to communicate, all the things that go into that. And then if it's a fit and you feel like you want to do it, then offer them an opportunity or not. It's the agent's choice. Just charge for your time. However you do it, charge. But what I like about the subscription model is you chose me and I showed you my rules and I was very transparent with them and you said yes. I didn't sell you. You said yes. And so if you said yes, then you know what you're dealing with here and I get to do my thing. And I love that.
Yeah. Here. Love it. So exciting. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people that go sign up that because that's very cool. And final question here for you is we talked a lot about, all the different subscription and business stuff, but what about the fun thing? Do you have any fun trips planned? What are your next big trips?
So I have been traveling. I am a specialist for Rwanda and I have been going to Rwanda for 18 years. And this last June, I just got to go again and I was so happy. And now I'm getting ready to leave for Kenya on the 18th of November. So I'm excited about that. And I'm going to go to some old properties that I haven't been to visit in years and some new properties. So I'm excited about that. And then on my way back, I'm going to stop over at ILTM because a lot of the suppliers couldn't make Virtual So Travel Week in August because they were working, everything was back on and people were coming, so they couldn't come. So it'll be nice to reconnect with a few suppliers there at ILTM. And then next year, I am off back to Botswana and to Namibia. I've never been to Namibia in 32 years. I've been going to Africa for a long time. It's my first trip to Namibia. I cannot wait. I'm so excited about it. So I'm going to be doing that and a few other things too. So, and what I like about my new world is I know how much work I have to do. I know when I'm busy. I know who wants what. I know when I can get away and I know what I have to do. And I love the calm, peaceful workflow instead of the chaos. I love not having to worry that the phone's going to ring because someone just needs a transfer, or, oh, we just decided last night at dinner, or whatever. I love the peace of this.
That's so great. I love that. That should be the title of the webinar, is like, no chaos. That's so good. I know the travel agents listening are like, yes, please.
Yeah.
No, so awesome. And I just want to thank you so much for your time, just spilling your expertise with us. I mean, it's so incredible what you've done and what you've achieved and what you've been able to find works, and so cool too that you're going to share that with the rest of the travel industry too, who's interested. So just thank you so much. It's been really cool.
Well, thank you. I really love this opportunity. Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks everyone for tuning into this episode of the Lounge of Travefy Academy. And of course, to our special guest, Ralph, for joining us today. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe and we'll catch you on the next flight.